You've seen everybody talk about putting ease into your business by not doing your own copywriting, but rather using an AI or artificial generator in order to create the copywriting for your website, your sales pages, your articles, your things that you're putting out into the world that involve words. But can you legally do this given that these AI generators are pulling context from other people's work to cobble them together to make your specific post? Let's talk to a lawyer and find out.
Hi, my name is Tony Oikostas. I'm an adjunct professor of entertainment law and IP at New York Law School, and I have an Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube account called The IP Professor that is dedicated to all things intellectual property.
A hot topic that we've recently been discovering and chatting about inside of the entrepreneurial world is the use of AI generated copywriting, Tony. We have programs out there that will take pieces of information on topics from different pages on websites and use it to inform a new creation all about that specific topic that people are then using to write articles, to put on their websites, to even send things into magazines and news articles. So what do we need to know when it comes to making sure we're legally protected on whether or not we should be using AI generated copywriting?
So this is a very interesting discussion of AI in kind of this copyright space, because I think you could see more credible evidence of AI possibly infringing on copyright with AI artwork, but it could get tricky in the writing space. So I'll kind of paint it this way. We've talked about it before. By now, you've kind of tattooed on your arm next to your "Live, Laugh, Love" tattoo. Copyright is an original work of authorship fixed in a tangible medium of expression. The essence of copyright, though, is, or at least the policy argument with copyright, is that ideas are never protected under copyright, but it's the expression of those ideas that warrant getting copyright protection. It's the idea expression dichotomy that runs through the veins, through the arteries of copyright law. And there's been a bevy of different cases that have kind of highlighted this subject matter. And one in particular is Baker versus Selden, the iconic case, very, very old case. But the bottom line was it was a case about two books that wrote essentially on the same subject matter, bookkeeping. And they even had charts that were like templates, if you will, of how to maintain the numbers and how do you put numbers in and this and that and the other. So one copyright owner was suing the other for copyright infringement because both books were on the same subject. And what the court held in that case was that even though both subjects were exactly the same, the way they expressed their ideas were different. So in theory, based on that logic, I could write a book on Benjamin Franklin, and you could write a book on Benjamin Franklin, and Lin-Manuel Miranda could write a book on Benjamin Franklin. But at the end of the day, all of our books may be different because we may express our narrative or what we talk about in a different way. You may talk about it from more the perspective of him being a founding father. Lin-Manuel Miranda may want to talk about it more from the perspective of him being a close ally of Alexander Hamilton. I may talk about it from more of the IP aspect of things. So everybody's expression of that subject matter, that topic, is going to be different. And so I think bringing that back to AI and copywriting, this might be a unique situation where if, let's say, you asked AI software to do copywriting for, let's say, Instagram Reels services. There are tons of like Instagram Reels coaches out there. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I had $1 for every time I ran into one on my feed, I'd be like a billionaire right now. Anyway, tons of these Instagram Reel coaches and social media mentors and this and that. They may have a specific narrative that they use on their website to talk about how they promote their service. And so, let's say the AI artwork pulls samples from, let's say, 10 of those 10 of those coaches and creates copyrighted material that, eventually it goes on another Instagram coach's website or goes on, some type of social media platform, what have you. The question becomes, is that going to qualify as copyright infringement? I don't know if it's going to necessarily be copyright infringement because, words like Instagram Reels, growth, engagement, those are words that are not necessarily in the context of copyright protection, period. But what may be a problem is if the collective whole is clearly plagiarized, clearly infringed on, that it could breed ground for a copyright infringement claim. And even then, I kind of showing a distinction here, right? Plagiarism versus copyright infringement. Plagiarism is when you're substantially copying, something that somebody else wrote and putting it in your work. Copyright infringement is when there is substantial similarity, but you also had access to that original copyrighted work, and you're also violating one of the exclusive rights that are afforded to that copyright owner. So there's a bit of a different dynamic with copyright infringement in that context. But
Mhm.
either way, I still think that a sampling of different descriptions or different words from Instagram coaches' websites could be transformative enough that you are genuinely creating a new copyrighted work. But even then, you are inching the line of plagiarism and fair use. So I guess my advice to anybody using that type of software is just be careful. I would, once the AI creates that copyrighted material that you've asked it to generate, scrutinize it, read it, peel every layer. Just make sure that you're doing CYA in treatment here and it's cover your what. So do that, and I think at the end of the day, it will give you guidance if the software is effective and you could evade some type of infringement matter, or it's going to be a problem and a headache at the end of the day.
So, do you feel like it might be a wise choice if someone is going to decide to use AI generated copywriting to then go through it and make significant changes on their own, just to ensure that no matter where this has come from, that there is enough to be transformative?
I really think that that's an excellent idea. You want to, I think they're putting the legal thing aside to it. I mean, you want to create some personalization to whatever you're writing. I feel like if you've asked AI to make some type of description or copyright of your service of what you're offering, yeah, it could be a bit impersonal. So you want to add a little bit of your flair, your style, who you are as a person. I think personalizing it is going to actually, at the end of the day, generate sales and generate interest, generally speaking. But certainly going in and maybe embellishing it with a bit more detail, revising words here and there, that's certainly going to be a very effective way of evading even an inquiry of copyright infringement. So you save yourself the headache of getting a cease and desist from somebody else that wrote a description. They see that similar description on your website and they say, "Hey, you want to talk to me about this?" And then you're evading a situation like that from arising.
And as always, when we're talking about working with something that is AI generated, we want to make sure that we are advising everybody to double check with your lawyers. Make sure both you and your lawyer are reading over those terms and conditions or those terms of service to make sure you really do have the rights to use this content in the way that you intend to use it, to make sure that you are completely covered. So if something should arise, you are able to handle it properly. Any final thoughts, Tony?
Just, I think in general, everybody should be aware that AI is a very new terrain for people, even though AI has had so many iterations throughout our culture over the last 20, even 30 years. We've seen it slowly evolve into what it's become now, where it's almost acting like extra manpower. And so, especially in the space where creators, influencers, authors, whoever is a beneficiary of this type of AI generated, software where they can make copyrighted material or artwork or what have you. I think it's just bearing in mind that it's a very gray area, more so in the intellectual property space. Obviously, it could raise potential privacy concerns long term because you don't know if this AI artwork can even have access to personal data when you're going into these websites. But
Right.
that aside, the IP implications I think could be quite grandiose, and so just bear in mind that it's not like you could just go in guns blazing and you could have full reign of using that software.
Right.
There could be ripe opportunities for a lawsuit that could come about, not something grave that it could endanger the industry, but it's just a matter of clarifying because it's like no different than with what we're dealing with NFTs. NFTs are kind of this new terrain of how artwork could be collected or other copyrighted material could be generated. Even in that space, NFTs are digital goods. How does copyright apply in the digital universe versus the physical universe, which is what typically and the Copyright Act of 1976 and other iterations of the Copyright Act have governed the physical universe. So how does that apply in the digital space? So I think all that to say, AI is wonderful. I think it shows our progression as a society, as a culture, but at the same time, legally, it could raise certain red flags. So, just I would say be tread lightly, be careful. That I think that's the best way to end this.
And because this is an ever evolving situation and conversation, we want to make sure that people can stay up to date with you as you are breaking news on court cases and things that are involved with this to make sure we stay legally protected as we move forward with our businesses. So where can everybody reach out to you?
You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at the IP Professor. And if you have any questions about IP, you're more than welcome to reach out to me in the DMs.
How do you feel about AI generators potentially taking copywriting that you've created yourself and using it to create something for someone else? Let me know down in the comments below. If you want to continue to have conversations about AI generated content, what you can and cannot use, and what you should potentially stay away from, let me know down in the comments and hit that subscribe and notification bell, because every single day we are dropping videos to help you save time and effort creating your social media content so that you can make more money online but spend less time doing it. I'll see you in the next episode.